Hey guys, what's up? It's your boy RJ Game News USA here, back today with another video. And yes, I'm wearing the bull mask, but not because we're talking about the quartering, but we're actually wearing this because we're talking about H3 suing iDubbz. Let's get into it. But first, if you're new here, please consider subscribing. Also, please consider liking the video. It helps out a lot. So, I really don't pay much attention to H3 or iDubbz. I don't know why so many people give a shit what they do. I guess they're super famous, or they used to be famous, or whatever. You know, and again, I feel the same way about Asmongold and Moist Critical, although I am subscribed to Moist Critical. Well, Penguin Zero on YouTube or whatever. Charlie, whatever. You know, these are not the kind of people I typically watch, believe it or not. But I kind of saw this lawsuit happening, and I'm like, let me take a look at this. And what I found was a little shocking, actually. Just shocking what different YouTubers are saying about this, and what the public side is on, and what's going on here. So I want to try to dissect what I think. So first, on the critical issue of, do I like the lawsuit? No, I do not. And I'm going to explain why. So H3's lawsuit to iDubbz is over the fact that iDubbz had a watermark on a video he did that basically implied that Ethan was doing something inappropriate with his children. Okay? A baseless accusation. Now, I'm a free speech absolutist, so my stance has to be I'm against this lawsuit. That does not mean that iDubbz is not a piece of shit, because iDubbz is clearly a piece of shit. But that being said, I don't love this idea because a YouTuber has money, like H3, that he could sue a whole bunch of people at any point. It's fucking stupid. It makes your critics scared to criticize you. And it actually is part of the reason of what causes people to hate you more. Now, generally speaking on the internet, most people, just if you asked H3 or iDubbz, like 90% of people will side with H3. When you ask about the specific lawsuit, I feel it's more 50-50 out there. And one of the things that's interesting is, iDubbz is not the one who said it. Destiny said the quote out loud. But yet, H3 is not suing Destiny in the United States. Well, why is that? He's suing iDubbz in Canada. Well, how? Why? Because Canadian laws are fucking retarded. That's why. They really side very often with the complainer of defamation rather than the defendant. They're a lot more anti-free speech than the United States, much like Europe is already. So he's going after a target where he can win. Now, having looked at Canadian law and the case, he's going to win. I believe H3 is going to win, and he's going to win a lot of money. And it's going to hurt iDubbz and accomplish what Ethan would want to accomplish. Now, that being said, it's already universally agreed almost that H3 won their exchange when they verbally went at it. Essentially, you know, they were friends. iDubbz made a content cop on him. It sucked. H3 went back at him. H3 won the exchange. Okay? I believe it's extra petty and salty to go after iDubbz legally, though. And Ethan will be the first to tell you that it is. But I can still voice my opinion, say I don't like it. You know what I mean? I don't like where this is going. And, first of all, I've never found the appeal of H3. He just goes, he's like, does all these weird freaking movements all over the place. I don't know why people watch him, to be honest. I don't get it. I don't get the appeal. I definitely don't get the appeal with iDubbz at all. So I'm like, whatever. Well, other YouTubers weighed in on the issue, and a couple big ones seem to side with iDubbz here. Both Penguin Zero, Charlie, and Asmongold basically didn't like the idea of this lawsuit. Well, why would that be? It's very similar to a quartering situation. You're trying to shut down your critic. Right? It's the same deal. You know, like, at the end of the day, it's the same deal. And the only reason you don't go after Destiny is because it's in the United States and you lose the case. So just because you're actually successful, unlike the quartering, and you can afford to do a lawsuit, you know, doesn't mean you should. And so I think this is a blow to free speech, potentially, in my opinion. And I think that's what Asmongold and Penguin Zero also understand. But of course they'll get shit on for that opinion. And I'll probably get shit on for this opinion too. There's no winning with this issue. But I don't care. I gotta voice my opinion. It's one of the biggest news stories going on. And so I had to take some time to look into it and form a real opinion about it. Not just side with what's popular. Some of you might watch me from, me being a Kino Casino fan. Right? But I've also sat here and, enjoyed to agree to disagree with COG as well. So I like to feel like I could have my own take without piggybacking off of somebody else. So I'm certainly not sitting here saying, well, because Asmongold and Penguin Zero said so, I'm taking their stance. No, I'm not. I just came to the same conclusion as they did about the issue. For the most part. You know what I mean? And I understand with, like, Kino Casino, for instance, they seem to be in support of H3 here. But I think it could be to their own detriment. Because they're Canadian. And other people are going to sit there and try to claim, well, Kino Casino lied about this or lied about that, so now they'll be sued. Well, first of all, maybe that's true. But they certainly open themselves up to a chance of that happening. If H3 wins this lawsuit versus iDubbz, someone else could sue the Kino Casino, which would be awful, right? But the thing is, I believe it's true that the quartering's a cuck anyway. Everything I think Kino Casino has said about the quartering or RTU or a lot of people that I've seen him cover, I think is fucking true. And even if you don't think it is, they always do say, like, allegedly, in my opinion, throw out the disclaimers, which I think is good enough. But again, it's not about what I think, it's about what judges in Canada think. And if H3 wins this lawsuit, which I believe he will, then other Canadian YouTubers are going to, or streamers or whatever, are going to be at risk, which would include the Kino Casino. So I think their stance on it is, they almost have to, though, because iDubbz is a villain of theirs, right? But if you notice, they're not really talking about it like a lot. So, like, I think they're trying to thread the needle here. I think to some degree they understand that, hey, this could be bad, right? I just think it's really simple. If you have the same principles that apply to everything, I know every situation is different, but if you have principles that you could apply to a lot of things, your stances don't have to change with the wind or adjust very much. So, like, I have a stance of being pretty much a free speech absolutist. I can find very few instances where free speech is actually harmful versus the lockdown of free speech being more harmful, if that makes sense. So, I have to go side with iDubbz here on this, as far as like, at least from the standpoint of he shouldn't be sued. Now he's a total piece of shit, and there is no reason H3 can't continue to destroy him through media, right? But the last thing I want to do is give any kind of government more power to shut people's speech down. A corporation or a government should not have more power to shut people's speech down. They should have less. America is the best with free speech, but even that is still limited, in my opinion, of how far free speech could actually go. People are not protected in free speech, like at their jobs, for instance. If you say something that some people consider heinous away from your job, you could still get fired at your job. And then some idiots will claim, well, those are consequences, not rights. But again, I think we're talking about words, though. You know what I mean? Like, there's very few things that I would be against when it comes to free speech. Like, for example, if Ethan has, like, not Ethan, but if iDubbz had on the watermark, he goes, this is how you get to Ethan's house, this is the times he sleeps, this is, you know what I mean, specific threats, I would understand. If it's actual slander, it needs to include, in the United States, it needs to include proof of damages. And H3 hasn't been damaged at all. If anything, he's gotten a bump from iDubbz's failure to felt him. So when you consider all of that, and I did listen to Nick Rekieta talk about it, and I know he's not the greatest authority on things, but I mostly agree with Rekieta's take on things, although I think he's being a little bit of a douchebag. You know, he may win the lawsuit, but I do think, to some degree, you gotta lose the respect of some free speech advocates out there. And to me, H3 filing all these lawsuits and shutting down criticism, I understand it's not to, like, a crazy degree, like all criticism shut down, but there is an element of, I'm going to control the narrative, I'm going to decide what is okay, not okay, and if you're in a country that's more likely to approve my lawsuit, I'm going to attack you there. And I just think that that's a horrible piece of power, like, of money and influence and power. And it's like, you know, I've been called a pedo a lot online. That doesn't mean I sue somebody, right? There's no, if there was actual damages done to my life, that's different. But, you know, I've been called this, that, and the other online throughout my entire life. Or while making content as well. And even if I had the money Ethan did, and even if I had the means, and even if I was guaranteed a slam dunk win, I would find it hard to find it in myself to sit there and go be sue happy and shut down my own criticism. I myself would feel a little grossed by that. A little, like, what am I? You know what I mean? What do I stand for? Sort of mentality. Especially when you're somebody else that criticizes people online yourself, and then you can't take that criticism back, even if it's misplaced, even if it's freaking outlandish, it could easily be disproven. Again, these are outlandish claims that could easily be disproven. Nobody in their right mind actually believes that H3 would do anything like that to his kids. It's ridiculous on its face. Okay? So ridiculous it should never be taken seriously. Everybody should unsubscribe from iDubbz. And don't give them money for doing shit like this. Right? Let the people speak. But the lawsuit itself, the only reason it's interesting to me, even though I don't support it, is its content, at least. It's content I could talk about. At least that's the silver lining here. That, and it's not my life, and I don't give a fuck what actually happens to iDubbz. But I try to put myself in everybody else's shoes as much as I can. And that's my stance on it. So again, I don't want to feel like I'm sitting on the fence on it. I have a clear stance. I don't like the lawsuit. But that being said, lawsuit's happening, and H3 is going to win. So, anyway, guys, with that being said, that is the end of this video. Thank you for watching, and if you have any thoughts on this issue, let me know in the comments below. But until next time, this is RJ signing out. Have a good one.